New York City glimmered like a crown at midnight. Glass towers, champagne lights, and beneath all that shine, secrets that could ruin lives. Amelia Brooks stood before the mirror in a wedding gown worth more than her father's house. She looked beautiful, heartbreakingly so. But her hands trembled, because this wasn't a love story. It was a transaction, a marriage built on revenge. Her groom, Alexander Graves, billionaire heir of Graves Global Enterprises. Cold, controlled, calculated. Every headline called him the perfect man, but Amelia knew the truth. He wasn't marrying her out of love. He was marrying her to destroy her. 3 months earlier, her father, Richard Brooks, had ruined Alexander's family through a hostile business takeover. Stocks crashed, a lifetime empire gone overnight. And when her father fled the country, the blame fell on Amelia, the innocent daughter left behind. She remembered that night like a scar that never faded. Alexander had appeared at her charity event, tall, elegant, with eyes like sharpened glass. He smiled that dangerous smile and said quietly, "Tell your father I said hello, Mrs. Kane." She laughed then, thought it was a cruel joke, until he proposed a week later, not with roses, but with a contract. Marriage for 2 years, no divorce scandal, full financial security. In return, silence. No mention of her father's crimes. It was blackmail, disguised as love. Her best friend, Leela, had begged her not to do it. "Amelia, this man doesn't love you. He wants revenge. Don't let him use you as a weapon." But her mother was sick, the bills were endless, and her father, gone without a trace. She said yes. She told herself she could survive anything for 2 years. She didn't know. 2 years could feel like a lifetime in hell. The wedding was a spectacle. Reporters everywhere, flashing cameras, every smile fake, every vow rehearsed. Alexander looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't wait to break apart. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," he didn't. He leaned close and whispered, "Welcome to my world, Mrs. Kane. Let's see how long you last." That night, their penthouse suite felt like a prison. He didn't touch her, didn't speak, just poured himself a drink and watched the city lights through the glass. She sat alone in silence, still wearing her gown. Days turned into weeks. They appeared in public like the perfect couple: power, luxury, elegance. Behind closed doors, their marriage was a war zone. He was distant, cold, meticulous. Every move she made, he controlled. Every word she said, he listened to. But then, something changed. One rainy evening, she found him in his study, staring at an old photograph. A woman's smile. A family portrait. She realized it was his mother, the one who had died after her company collapse. That was when she saw the pain beneath his ice. And for the first time, she didn't see a monster. She saw a man. That night she said softly, "I'm sorry for what my father did." He looked at her, anger flashing, then fading into something unreadable. "Don't apologize for him. Just remember, forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." She couldn't sleep after that, because something inside her began to shift. Pity, understanding, maybe even something dangerous. Love. Weeks later, she began to notice little things. The way he'd silently pull her chair at dinner, how he'd leave coffee exactly how she liked it, or defend her against gossip during charity events. The world thought they were perfect together, and somewhere between pretense and pain, the lines blurred. One night, after another charity gala, he drove her home in silence. Rain tapped against the windshield like whispered confessions. When they got inside, she turned to him and said, "Why do you hate me so much?" He didn't answer. He just stared at her, jaw tense, eyes dark. Then, slowly he stepped closer and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was fire meeting ice. Anger, pain, passion, everything colliding at once. When he pulled away, he whispered, "That's why I hate you." She stood frozen, breathless, because in that moment she realized the truth. This wasn't hate anymore. It was obsession. And for the first time she was afraid, not of him, but of what she might be starting to feel in return. That night, as she lay awake, she heard him on the phone. His voice, cold again, calculated. "Yes, it's working. She's starting to trust me. Once she signs those shares, the Brooks name will be gone for good." Her heart stopped. Tears filled her eyes. So this was it. His plan. He wasn't just destroying her emotionally. He wanted her inheritance, the last thing her father left behind. And she realized, love had made her blind. But not for long. Because Amelia Brooks was done being the victim. She would play his game. But this time, she would win.
The morning after that call, Amelia woke before dawn. The city was still asleep, but her world wasn't. Her heart was a battlefield, torn between rage and heartbreak. She stood by the window, watching the skyline fade into daylight. Every light that blinked in those towers felt like another lie she had believed. He was using her. Every smile, every touch, every look, all part of his plan.
And yet, she still felt the ghost of his kiss. When Alexander walked into the kitchen that morning, dressed in his usual perfection, gray suit, silver cufflinks, she pretended to be calm. He poured himself coffee, his voice smooth and cold. "You're up early." She smiled faintly. "Couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts. About us." He didn't look at her, just said quietly, "There's no us, Amelia. There's a contract." Her stomach twisted, but she kept her voice steady. "I know, but contracts end, and when this one does, I wonder which one of us will regret it more." For a brief second, something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe even guilt, but he masked it fast. He walked out, leaving the scent of his cologne and the echo of his indifference behind. That week, Amelia began to change. She was done crying in corners. She began reading his business files, learning his world, numbers, mergers, board politics. She showed up at his meetings, calm and composed. The executives whispered, "Mr. Kane's wife is different lately." Even Alexander noticed. He'd return home to find her on the balcony, laptop open, researching stocks or hosting charity calls. She didn't chase his attention anymore. She became something more dangerous, independent, unpredictable, and power is seductive. One night at a business gala, she walked in wearing a black silk dress that made every head turn. Alexander was mid-conversation when he saw her and froze. For the first time, he looked uncertain. She smiled at him, slow and deliberate. When another man, his rival, Ethan Cole, asked her for a dance, she said yes. Alexander's jaw tightened. The music began. She laughed, spun gracefully, and for a moment she felt something she hadn't in months: freedom. After the event, he was waiting for her in the car, silent, cold, until the door shut. Then his voice dropped, sharp as a blade. "You enjoyed that, didn't you?" She looked out the window. Enjoyed what? Letting him touch you. She turned slowly, her voice calm but cutting. "You married me to destroy me, Alexander. Did you really think I'd stay broken forever?" The car went silent, except for the sound of his breathing, uneven, angry, conflicted. Then, out of nowhere, he slammed his fist against the dashboard. "Damn it, Amelia! You're not supposed to fight back?" She whispered, "Then maybe you should have married someone else." And that night, for the first time, he didn't sleep in the master bedroom. She did. Alone, but not afraid anymore. Days passed. Their silence became tension. Their tension became sparks. And one night, it all came undone. They were arguing again about her father's past, about money, about lies. She shouted, "You think revenge will bring your mother back? You think destroying me will make you whole?" He turned sharply. His eyes glistened. "You have no idea what it's like to watch everything you love die because of someone else's greed." She froze, because for the first time, he broke. No mask, no control, just pain. He sat down, trembling, his voice softer now. "My mother, she wasn't strong. When my father's company fell, she thought she could fix it. She borrowed money from the wrong people. They came after us. I was 22. I couldn't save her." Amelia's heart cracked. "I'm sorry." He looked up, tears in his eyes, and whispered, "I swore I'd destroy every Brooks left alive." She stepped closer. "And now, after everything, do you still want to destroy me?" He didn't answer, just stared at her, breathing heavy, torn between vengeance and desire. Then he kissed her again. This time it wasn't anger, it was surrender. Raw, desperate, real.
That night, they didn't speak. They just stayed in each other's arms, both knowing love had found them where it shouldn't have. The next morning, everything changed again. She woke up alone. His side of the bed was cold, his suitcase gone. A single note lay on her pillow. "Don't look for me." Her chest tightened. What had she done? Had he finally realized what he was feeling and run from it? For days, no one saw him. Not his assistants, not his board. Until one afternoon, she turned on the news. Breaking story. Alexander Kane under federal investigation for financial fraud. Her heart stopped. The company he had rebuilt, the empire he fought for, was collapsing again. Only this time, it wasn't her father's fault. It was his own. She drove straight to the courthouse. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Kane, did you know about your husband's crimes?" She didn't answer. She just walked inside, trembling, until she saw him, handcuffed, surrounded by guards. Their eyes met. And in that instant, she saw everything, the pride, the pain he'd never admit. He looked away and whispered something she barely heard. "This is what I deserve." Tears blurred her vision, because for the first time she realized he wasn't her enemy anymore. He was a man broken by his own revenge. She turned and walked out, heart heavy. But something inside her whispered, this wasn't the end, because love like that doesn't die in courtrooms. It burns quietly, waiting for redemption. 2 months later, the scandal cooled. The press moved on. Amelia focused on her work, rebuilding what was left of the Brooks name. But every night, she found herself standing by that same window, staring at the skyline, remembering him, his voice, his eyes, his pain. Until one evening, a knock came at her door. She opened it and froze. Alexander stood there, thinner, paler, different. No suit this time, just a man stripped of everything except the truth. He said quietly, "I signed everything away. The company, the shares, the name. I've got nothing left to destroy." She swallowed hard. "Then why are you here?" He took a deep breath. "Because the only thing I can't live without is you." Her heart ached. She wanted to hate him, but she couldn't. Because sometimes love is cruel like that. She said softly, "You hurt me, Alexander. You broke me." "I know." His voice cracked. "And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to fix what I broke." Pause. The silence stretched, long and fragile. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." He did. And for the first time, their home felt real. No contracts, no lies. Just two broken hearts trying to find their way back to something that had almost destroyed them. The first night Alexander returned home, the silence between them was heavier than any words. He slept on the couch like a man exiled from his own life. Amelia watched him from the hallway. The man who once ruled boardrooms now curled beneath a thin blanket, breathing quietly, haunted by his own demons. She could have asked him to leave. She could have slammed the door and shut that chapter forever. But she didn't, because somewhere deep down, she still believed in the man buried under the armor. Morning sunlight spilled through the windows, warming the cold marble floors. She made coffee, 2 cups. He walked into the kitchen, hesitant, like a stranger. "You don't have to." "I know." She interrupted gently, pushing a cup toward him. "But I want to." He looked at her, really looked at her, and whispered, "I don't deserve your kindness." She smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but sometimes grace isn't about deserving. It's about healing." That moment marked the beginning of something fragile, something new. They didn't rush. They rebuilt, one awkward conversation, one hesitant smile at a time. He started helping her with her charity projects. She helped him with community work during his probation. And slowly, people began to see him differently, not as the billionaire who fell, but as a man trying to rise again. But redemption never comes easy. One rainy afternoon, Amelia returned from a board meeting to find an envelope on the table. No name, no address, just a wax seal. Inside were documents, bank statements, hidden accounts, proof that Alexander's late father had ties to the same fraudulent network that destroyed her father's company. She sat down hard, her chest tightening. Her father hadn't been the only villain. The Kanes had played a part too. And suddenly, everything she believed, everything she'd forgiven, started to crumble. She waited for him to come home. When he did, soaked from the rain, she stood in the center of the living room, holding the papers. "What is this, Alexander?" His face went pale. "Where did you get that?"
Answer me. He hesitated, then said quietly, "It's the truth I was too ashamed to tell. My father wasn't innocent either. He caused your father's downfall long before your father retaliated. I found those documents years ago, but by then it was too late. Both families were already ruined." She stared at him, trembling. "So this war between our families, it was built on lies and half-truths?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, I wanted revenge for something my father started." Tears filled her eyes. "You married me to punish me for his sins, and now you tell me he was guilty too?" His voice broke. "I didn't know how to stop, Amelia. Revenge blinded me. By the time I realized what I'd done, I'd already fallen in love with you." She turned away, choking back sobs. "You don't get to say that. Not after everything." He stepped closer, voice trembling. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, let me make this right. Let me make you whole again." She faced him, tears streaking her cheeks. "How? How do you fix something that never should have been broken?" He didn't answer. He just fell to his knees and whispered, "By never giving up until you heal." Days turned into weeks again. She didn't speak much. He gave her space, quietly doing everything he could to prove he'd changed. He sold his penthouse, donated half his remaining wealth to charity, and moved with her to a smaller home outside the city. They started over, not as billionaire and bride, but as man and woman trying to live honestly. Still, the ghosts of their pasts lingered. The world didn't forget. Tabloids called her the woman who tamed a billionaire criminal. Others called her foolish. But Amelia didn't care, because love, the real kind, isn't built for applause. It's built for redemption. One evening, she found him sitting on the porch, staring at the sunset. He looked peaceful, the way she'd never seen him before. She sat beside him, quietly. He said softly, "Do you ever wish you hadn't married me?" She smiled sadly. "Sometimes, but then I remember everything I learned because of it." "What did you learn?" "That love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the fire that burns you before it warms you." He turned to her, eyes glistening. "And do you still love me?" She took a long breath. "I think I never stopped. I just had to remember who I was before I could love you right." He reached for her hand, tentative, almost shy. She didn't pull away. Months later, they renewed their vows. No cameras, no diamonds, no guests. Just them, barefoot on a quiet beach, waves whispering their own amends. He spoke first, voice steady but emotional. "I married you to destroy you, but you saved me instead. You taught me what power can't buy, forgiveness and love." Her eyes filled with tears. "And I married a stranger who became the man I prayed for. Not perfect, but real." They exchanged rings again, simple bands this time. Nothing flashy, nothing heavy, just promises. When he kissed her, it wasn't fire meeting ice anymore. It was peace meeting grace. Years passed. They built a small foundation for families ruined by corporate greed, a cause born from their shared scars. The tabloids forgot them, but their story didn't fade. Sometimes when Amelia spoke at charity events, she'd look into the crowd and say, "Love doesn't always come wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it comes disguised as pain, because only pain can teach the soul how to heal." And Alexander, standing quietly at the back, would smile, proud, humbled, changed. One evening, as the sun set behind their little house, Amelia leaned against him and whispered, "Do you ever think about the beginning?" He chuckled softly. "Every day, the day I thought I'd ruin you, and ended up saving myself instead." She smiled. "Guess we both got what we didn't deserve." He kissed her forehead. "Maybe that's what grace really is." The waves crashed gently, the world at peace. And as night fell, they sat there, two souls once bound by vengeance, now free in love. Because in the end, he didn't marry her to destroy her. He married her to find himself. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Golden Billionaire Stories, where every tale drips with luxury, power, and passion. Because here, love always comes with a price.